Time, as we commonly understand it, is a construct, a framework we use to organize our experiences and make sense of the world. We divide it into past, present, and future, believing these segments are tangible realities. But upon closer examination, this division begins to unravel. The past exists only as a memory, a mental impression stored in our minds. The future is an abstraction, a projection of possibilities shaped by our imagination. Neither holds any real substance outside of our thoughts. What we call the present moment is the only point where life actually unfolds. Yet even this elusive now slips through our fingers when we try to grasp it, for the very act of identifying it in time transforms it into memory. This paradox reveals the fluid and illusory nature of time itself. Our perception of time often dictates how we live, clinging to past experiences or anxiously awaiting future outcomes. We become prisoners of a narrative that doesn't truly exist, mistaking the shadows of memory and anticipation for the vivid reality of existence. Life, in its essence, is not a linear march from one point to another, but a dynamic, flowing rhythm, a dance. Existence unfolds not as a series of destinations to be reached, but as an ongoing process, a symphony of interwoven moments, each complete in itself. Yet we often approach life as if it were a race to be won or a problem to be solved, focusing so intently on the next step that we forget to feel the ground beneath our feet. In this dance there is no fixed choreography. The steps are improvised, the rhythm unpredictable, and the movements fluid. Like waves in the ocean or leaves swaying in the wind, life moves in patterns of change, always evolving and yet perpetually in harmony with itself. This is not a path to be controlled or mastered, it is a participation in something greater, a cosmic unfolding in which we are both the dancer and the dance. The beauty of the dance lies in its impermanence, its unpredictability. Each moment is fleeting, yet it holds the fullness of existence. To try to hold on to a step, to freeze the motion, is to miss the essence of the dance itself. It is not about arriving at a final position, but about immersing fully in the movement, finding joy in the act of being rather than the pursuit of becoming. Liberation through presence is the profound realization that true freedom is not something we achieve in the future, nor something bound to the past, but a state of being available to us in the here and now. So often we are entangled in the mental webs of regret and anticipation, replaying old narratives or constructing scenarios that may never come to pass. This mental noise creates a prison, one where we are held captive by the illusion of time and the ceaseless churning of thought. Presence, however, is the key that unlocks this self-imposed confinement. In the present moment, there is no space for the burdens of the past or the fears of the future. The mind, when fully attuned to now, quiets its restless activity, and with this stillness comes a profound sense of liberation. We discover that much of our suffering arises not from the circumstances themselves, but from our resistance to what is, our insistence on clinging to what was or forcing what might be. To be present is to accept the unfolding of life without judgment or expectation. It is to step into a space where we can experience the raw aliveness of existence, unfiltered by the lens of thought. In presence, the weight of should have and what if falls away, leaving only what is a boundless, vibrant awareness that frees us from the mental chains we unknowingly construct. The futility of control becomes evident when we closely observe the nature of life and our attempts to impose order upon it. We spend so much of our energy trying to mold the world to our desires, to predict outcomes, and to navigate every detail according to a carefully constructed plan. Yet life in its essence resists such manipulation. It flows with a spontaneity and unpredictability that defies our attempts to grasp or command it. When we cling tightly to the idea of control, we set ourselves up for frustration and disappointment. The river of life cannot be stopped or redirected by sheer will it moves according to its own rhythm and laws. Our attempts to control often come from a fear of uncertainty, a belief that we can secure happiness or avoid suffering by managing every variable. But this is an illusion. The more we try to dominate the flow, the more turbulence we create, as though wrestling with the current instead of moving with it. True freedom lies in recognizing this futility and surrendering to the natural unfolding of events. Control in its rigid form is rooted in separation, the belief that we are distinct entities isolated from the larger process of existence. Yet when we let go of this need to control, we begin to see that we are not separate from the flow, but an integral part of it. Unity with the universe is not an abstract concept, but a deeply felt truth that emerges when we transcend the illusion of separateness. For much of our lives, we operate under the belief that we are isolated beings, moving through a world that exists outside of us. This perspective creates a sense of division, a self in here, distinct from a world out there. But this division is a product of thought, a mental construct that dissolves when we experience life directly. At the most fundamental level, we are not entities apart from the universe, but expressions of it, just as waves are expressions of the ocean. Every breath we take, every cell in our body, every thought in our mind is interconnected with the larger whole. The air we inhale was exhaled by trees, the water we drink has cycled through countless forms, and the stardust that formed galaxies also resides within our very being. This unity is not something to be achieved, for it has always been. It is the recognition that there is no boundary between the observer and the observed, the individual and the cosmos. When we see through the illusion of separateness, we come to understand that we are the universe knowing itself, a momentary manifestation of an infinite process that is both timeless and boundless. The ego, often perceived as the core of our identity, is in truth a mirage, a construct of the mind that gives the illusion of permanence and separateness. From an early age, we are taught to define ourselves through labels, roles and narratives our name, our achievements, our possessions, our relationships. This collection of thoughts and attachments becomes the I. We carry through life a fragile sense of self that constantly seeks validation and protection. Yet when we look deeply, we find that this I has no fixed or independent existence. It is not something we can locate or pin down. It shifts and changes with our moods, thoughts, and circumstances. The ego thrives on identification, clinging to the past and projecting into the future, weaving a story that convinces us of its solidity. But this story is only that a story. It is not who we are. The ego creates the illusion of separation, drawing boundaries between self and other, fostering a sense of division between us and the world around us. It clings to control, resists change, and fears dissolution, because to see through the ego is to realize its unreality. When the mirage is exposed, we come to see that what we truly are is not confined to this imagined self, but is vast, boundless, and inseparable from the flow of life itself. The art of effortless action, often referred to as Wu Wei, is the understanding that the most profound and effective actions arise not from force or struggle, but from alignment with the natural flow of life. It is not laziness or passivity, as some might misunderstand, but an intuitive way of being where our actions harmonize with the rhythms of the moment. When we practice effortless action, we are not pushing against the current, we are moving with it, allowing life to unfold as it will while skillfully engaging with its flow. In the pursuit of control, we often overexert ourselves, believing that success is the product of constant striving and resistance. Yet this constant effort frequently leads to frustration and exhaustion, as it arises from a place of fear and resistance. Effortless action, on the other hand, requires trust in the intelligence of life, in our ability to adapt, and in the unfolding of circumstances beyond our immediate grasp. This art invites us to pause and observe, to respond rather than react, to act not from a place of desperation, but from a deep sense of clarity and presence. It is like a musician improvising in a symphony, attuned to the other players and the overall harmony. Silence speaks in ways that words cannot, yet we often overlook its profound language. In our culture, we are conditioned to fill every space with sound, to constantly communicate, analyze, and explain. We mistake the absence of sound for emptiness or boredom, not realizing that in silence there is a deeper, richer form of communication happening. Silence is not simply the lack of noise, it is an active presence, a medium through which the subtleties of life reveal themselves. When we quiet the mind, we create a space where something beyond thought can emerge, something pure and unfiltered. Silence is the canvas upon which the true nature of things can be seen. Without the noise of judgment, comparison, and the constant chatter of our inner dialogue, we begin to perceive life as it is, untainted by preconceived notions. In this stillness, we become aware of the imperceptible rhythms and nuances of existence that are always present but often ignored. The sound of a bird's wings, the flow of water in a stream, the soft rustle of leaves, they speak not through words but through the presence of their being. Silence also speaks to us through our own bodies. When we are still, we reconnect with the deeper currents of our being, those quiet impulses and sensations that are often drowned out by the noise of daily life. In silence, we feel our breath, the subtle movements within, the pulse of life that keeps us alive. It is in these moments of silence that we reconnect with the universal flow that sustains us, reminding us of our place in the larger dance of existence. And beyond the individual, silence also connects us to the larger whole. In the stillness, we sense that we are not isolated beings, but part of an interconnected web of life. The silence between words in a conversation, the pause before a decision, or the stillness of a shared moment between two people allows for a deeper connection to occur. It is in these spaces that we find empathy, understanding, and unity, not through spoken language, but through a deeper, more intuitive knowing. Silence speaks of this unity, reminding us that we are not separate from the world, but inextricably linked to it. In the absence of sound, we also encounter our own thoughts in their most unfiltered form. Without the distraction of external noise, we are forced to face the noise within our fears, desires, and anxieties. But silence does not merely expose this inner turmoil, it offers a space for it to dissolve. It allows us to see these thoughts for what they are: temporary, fleeting, and insubstantial, rather than identifying with them as truths. Silence, in this sense, becomes a powerful tool for self-liberation, helping us disentangle ourselves from the patterns of thought that limit our freedom. When we embrace silence, we open ourselves to a deeper form of listening, not just listening with our ears, but with our entire being. We listen to the silence between sounds, the silence within our hearts, the silence that connects all things. In this listening, we hear the unspoken, the hidden messages that life is always offering. In the quiet spaces, we are given the opportunity to hear the wisdom that comes not from intellectual understanding, but from a deeper, more instinctive knowing. Ultimately, silence speaks of the infinite possibilities that lie beyond our limited perceptions. It is in silence that we come closest to the eternal, to that which transcends time and space. Silence invites us to let go of our need to control or understand, and to simply be present with what is. It is here, in the vast expanse of silence, that we encounter the truth of who we are, not as individuals with fragmented identities, but as expressions of the whole, deeply interconnected and ever evolving. The present moment is often perceived as fleeting, a brief blip in the vast expanse of time, a moment that quickly slips away, lost to the past or swallowed by the future. Yet if we examine it closely, we realize that this very present moment holds the key to eternity. The experience of time itself is rooted in our perception, an ongoing stream of now that we mentally fragment into past, present, and future. But in truth, these divisions are illusions, and the present moment is not merely a passing phase between what was and what will be. It is the eternal unfolding of existence itself. When we fully engage with the present, we step outside the artificial boundaries imposed by time. The present, when experienced in its purest form, is timeless. It is not a segment of life, but the very substance of it. The past is a collection of memories, the future a projection of desire, but the present is the only true reality, the space in which all life is happening. When we are entirely present, we experience a sense of eternity within the now, where time seems to expand or dissolve. In this timelessness, everything becomes more vivid, more profound. The ordinary details of life, which often slip by unnoticed, suddenly become imbued with meaning and depth. The sound of a bird's call, the touch of a cool breeze, the sight of a cloud drifting across the sky, all of these moments are eternal in their nature when we allow ourselves to fully inhabit them. It is as if we are standing at the intersection of time and infinity, aware that the present contains all that has been and all that will be. The idea of eternity is often understood as something distant, an endless future stretching out before us, or a far-off past that has long since passed. But eternity is not a linear concept. It is not bound by the tick of a clock or the march of days. True eternity exists in the present moment, where every moment holds infinite possibility. Each breath, each step, each thought is both transient and eternal, a part of the ever-unfolding flow of existence. The present as eternity is not a grand, distant event waiting to happen, but a continuous unfolding that we can experience right here, right now. When we immerse ourselves in the present, we begin to understand that it is not simply a collection of moments strung together, but a continuous expression of existence, a living process that cannot be separated from the whole of life. The present is the point of convergence, where all things come together, where the past and future meet. In this moment, we are at once the culmination of everything that has come before and the seed of everything that will come next. To live in the present is to recognize that there is no separation between us and the universe. The present moment is not isolated or fleeting, but is the pulse of life itself, the rhythm of the cosmos, the unfolding of the eternal. In this way, the present becomes not just a moment in time, but the very expression of time, space, and existence. When we are fully present, we are not just participants in the world, we are the world itself, experiencing its vast interconnected nature. The present moment is eternal because it is always here, always available. The past is gone, the future not yet arrived, but the present is always unfolding. It is the space in which all transformation occurs, the place where life takes root and grows. When we allow ourselves to fully embrace the present, we step into a timeless flow, no longer bound by the ticking of the clock, but connected to something far larger, something that exists beyond time and space. In the end, the present as eternity is not a concept to be understood intellectually, but an experience to be lived. It is an invitation to let go of the need to control time, to release the mental grip on the past and future, and to embrace the fullness of the moment as it is. This eternal present, once fully realized, reveals that time itself is but an illusion, and that what we have always sought is already here, waiting to be experienced in the now. The playfulness of life is often overlooked in our serious pursuit of goals, success, and security. We tend to approach life with a sense of urgency, as if every moment is a race to achieve something, to reach a destination. Yet beneath this surface of striving, life itself is inherently playful, full of creativity, spontaneity, and joy. To embrace the playfulness of life is to recognize that existence is not a rigid, predetermined structure, but a dynamic and ever-changing expression of possibility. When we look at the world through the eyes of play, we see that everything is a kind of game. The flowers bloom not because they must, but because they enjoy the act of blooming. The wind blows not out of duty, but because it delights in the movement of air. Even the seemingly mundane moments, drinking a cup of coffee walking through a park. Or having a conversation can be infused with playfulness when we shift our awareness. Life is not something that happens to us, it is something we are invited to participate in, to engage with wholeheartedly. Playfulness invites us to let go of the heavy burden of expectation and control. When we approach life as a game, we free ourselves from the need to always know the outcome or to force things to go a certain way. We allow life to unfold as it will without resistance. This does not mean a lack of responsibility or care, but rather an attitude of openness, curiosity, and lightness. Playfulness thrives in the freedom of being fully present, unburdened by the weight of what should be. In the playful approach to life, mistakes are not failures but opportunities for discovery. Just as a child playing with blocks doesn't worry about whether the tower will fall, we too can learn to engage with the world without fear of making mistakes. The act of trying, of experimenting, and of exploring is in itself a joyful process. Life, like play, is full of trial and error, and each mistake is simply a step in the game, a chance to learn, to grow, and to enjoy the process of living. Awakening to wonder is a process of rediscovering the awe and mystery that exist in every moment, a return to the childlike state of mind where everything is new, unfamiliar, and full of possibility. As we grow older, we often become jaded, consumed by routine and practicality, and the world around us begins to feel ordinary, predictable, and mundane. We lose touch with the magic of life, the sense of wonder that once colored our experience. Yet wonder is always available to us, hidden just beneath the surface of our everyday perceptions, waiting to be rediscovered. And to awaken to wonder is to see the world through fresh eyes, to experience the familiar as if encountering it for the first time. This involves shedding the layers of assumption, judgment, and expectation that we have accumulated over time. It requires us to let go of the need to categorize, label, or understand everything, and instead approach life with a sense of openness and curiosity. When we stop trying to figure everything out and simply experience the world as it is, we begin to see its beauty and complexity in a way that we may have missed before. Wonder is not confined to the grand or extraordinary moments of life, but is present in the simplest things. A raindrop on a leaf, the sound of wind through the trees, the movement of clouds across the sky, each of these, when seen through the lens of wonder, is an expression of the vast, interconnected mystery of existence. The ordinary becomes extraordinary when we allow ourselves to be present with it, when we drop the filter of our habitual thinking and approach it with reverence. In this way, even the smallest moment can become a doorway to the infinite. And to awaken to wonder is also to be humbled by the enormity of life. When we step out of our small, personal concerns and contemplate the vastness of the universe, the intricacies of nature, and the mystery of consciousness itself, we are reminded of how little we truly know and how much there is still to discover. This humility opens us to the beauty and mystery that lie beyond our limited understanding. It invites us to surrender the illusion of control and certainty, and to embrace the mystery of being. Awakening to wonder is not something that happens once and then fades. It is a continual process, a practice of returning to the present moment with fresh attention and gratitude. It is about re-engaging with life as if it were new, each moment a new discovery. As we do this, the world begins to reveal its richness in ways we may not have noticed before. The magic is not in any particular thing, but in the act of fully experiencing it. When we open ourselves to wonder, we become more attuned to the delicate details of life, the textures, the colors, the sounds, the sensations that we often take for granted. In this state of wonder, time itself can feel suspended. We are not concerned with the past or the future, but fully immersed in the present, where everything is fresh and alive. The ordinary becomes infused with a sense of sacredness, as if each moment holds within it a deeper truth. The more we awaken to wonder, the more we begin to see the world as a miraculous unfolding, a living expression of the mysteries of life. Wonder also calls us to remember our connection to all things. In the experience of awe, we recognize that we are not separate from the world around us, but an integral part of it. The beauty of a sunset, the laughter of a child, the vastness of the ocean, all of these experiences remind us that we are not isolated, but part of a greater whole. To awaken to wonder is to experience the interconnectedness of all life, and to recognize that we are both the observer and the observed, the experiencer and the experiencer, and the experience. Ultimately, awakening to wonder is an invitation to live with more presence, more openness, and more gratitude. It asks us to embrace life in its fullest expression, without holding back, and to approach every moment as if it were a gift. It is in the state of wonder that we find ourselves truly alive, aware of the miraculous nature of existence, and filled with a deep sense of awe and appreciation for the world in which we live. In embracing the eternal now, we awaken to the profound